There it is.
Okay. Hey, welcome everyone to our open mic at the Pat Conroy Literary Center. Our featured reader and writer tonight is Katherine Tandy Brown, who will conclude this evening's open mic. We also have some other writers that are going to start us off. I do have Estelle going first, if she's ready. Oh, she's not reading? No?
She's not reading.
Oh, okay. That's who said that. Okay. All right. Elizabeth, are you going to read for us? Yes.
I could. I thought it might be a good idea. I'm not reading this one tomorrow night, but I'm reading this one for a thing on Saturday. So I thought maybe I should practice, trot it out a little bit. It's part of a big chunk of actually the poetry in this book is inspired by various art pieces, and two are inspired by films. And this one, if you've seen this film, this poem requires no explanation, but if you have not, in 2017, there was a documentary made about a wonderful, quirky British artist named Andy Goldsworthy. I don't know if you know anything about him, but he does a lot of his work in found objects in nature. And a lot of him is about testing his limits, physical limits, intellectual limits, all of that. So he's just a really interesting guy. And I would recommend this documentary because it's one of those stories you just fall into and you're like, this guy, he's like amazing. and at the time that I saw it, at least, it was very inspiring to me because of his attitude set. And I ended up writing this poem. The film is called Leaning into the Wind. There's an image at the very end of the film where literally where he lives, the weather is quite special. And the wind is coming off from the ocean. And it's so strong that he literally has to lean, and he's trying to stand upright. He ends up leaning like this into the wind and doesn't fall down because the wind is holding him up. It's like a pretty cool image that it ends with. Not that I meant to spoil the end, but there you go. Andy Goldsworthy's art lesson. To survive low tides, clams have to bury deep into the Bay of Fundy. But every memory brings the tides rushing back, whisking sand away. I watch Goldsworthy place himself in nature, lie down in the rain or snow, create self-outlines that disappear as he rises to sleep inside a stone, cut walkways through rock walls, crawl through a hedgerow, or sway a tree to rain pollen. He decorates the fallen, highlights Dutch elm disease scars outlined in yellow leaf applique, the massive rifts rending deterioration in snow or woven sticks, in bright red, green, gold leaves. The repurposing repositions decay. I admire his point of view, but I have no one to tell. I need to rattle trees, struggle through thorny bushes, flaunt wounds, lay down color lines, lean into prevailing winds, and even when they blow me down, dig in. So I was only going to read the one.
Your images of nature are just exquisite always, Elizabeth. I love that. Wow.
Nature's a big inspiration, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Or not
It
to.
is.
You should read another one, please.
Yeah.
It's not like I can't use the practice. Um, oh, I think I'll read another. If this is a kind of a tree hugger one. I think I may have read this in another form a long time ago with you guys. I'm not sure. But it's obvious from the way I begin this what prompted me to go into this rant. Quilting Earth. It's official. The Carolina panther is gone. Greenland just held a funeral for its first dead glacier, and the Amazon rainforest burns. We all begin with a tinge of Neanderthal, but must you club me to death? You strip me, steal my babies, rape my treasure, but who boils inside sea foam? Who inhabits the palm-sized tiger-striped spider that swings at your face? Rumi said, the way you make love is the way God will be with you. Manicure me into a sequence of blooms and bulbs, a year-round play, and see. You've had hints in flooding, chemical spills, leukemia golf. The first day of spring differs little from the last day of winter. Green growth flowering in a warming sun. It feels hopeful, a promise, a kiss of joy and birdsong. So much past disappears, childhood's brined in eminent domain, new beltways and high rises. Time sharpens pain, pinpricks suck yolks out. It seems a mother's gift is rarely appreciated until she's gone. My time's running out. Running. Can you keep time? Can you give it back? Like all mothers, I speak in riddles you don't understand until it's too late. But this is important. The soft gray waking of a morning sky, its slow walk up the horizon, spurs the egret glide across the lake. It's a moment of possibility, the promise of another day. Are you listening to me now? Do you get it? Floods and fires shocked Noah and Lot, but you, weep that Noah's rescue didn't take, according to scripture. Float that boat on God's order. Even the wind deafens the mockingbird's singing. Thank you.
Your last lines are always just killer. Nice job. It just really brings it all together nicely.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, are those from books that are published?
That's from the new one, To My Dreamcatcher.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just starting to trot it out.
Great.
Yeah, I have my first event tomorrow, thanks to Jonathan and Beaufort Bookstore. So that will be nice. And hopefully it will be a room full of friends so that I won't panic.
I registered for my seat this afternoon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we mentioned this before we went live, so just to repeat it, you'll be at Beaufort Bookstore 5 o'clock tomorrow in conversation with Barry. You want to talk a little bit about what that's going to be like, or do we know?
Well, I think Barry just wanted breakfast because we met to talk about what we were going to talk about, and then he didn't tell me anything he was going to ask me.
That's
So
all
it
you
was
need to
like,
know.
Oh,
it was like, I'll just surprise you. And I was like, well, are you going to tell me like what poems you want me to like? Because he wants me to read some poems. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to read? Because, I need to practice. He never does, but I do. And he's like, I'll surprise you.
Surprise to all of us.
Yeah.
What are you doing at Richland Library though? Because that's the next event, right? What's that?
On Saturday at 2, I'm at the southeast branch of the Richland Library for that program called Words, Words, Words.
Mm-hmm.
Al Black, a poet that's a friend from Columbia, is I don't know what this is the poetry men in my life. So I send Al a message. So I'm like, so is there anything I should prepare for Saturday? And he's like, no, just bring Elizabeth Robin.
oh,
That's helpful.
I'm like, all right. Maybe I have to figure out who she is.
It's obviously good practice for something.
I don't know. It's a good thing I was a teacher, so I kind of am used to everything just exploding in my face and teaching anyway. But anyway.
Tell her we'll
Yeah.
come to her this time.
We should. We
Yeah.
should.
I'll tell her that. No, just saying.
We'll come back to you, Elizabeth. I'm sure we'll have some extra time. Can you hear me? Oh, yes. Okay. Gosh,
Yeah, I could hear you. I just muted myself because I figured my time was over.
Tell her we'll give her more practice.
Yeah, we'll give you more practice. Okay, Denise, are you gonna read something for us?
Yes, I will. Give me a second to pull it up here.
Denise, is that your real background?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my real background.
Okay. It's very pretty. The flowers are beautiful.
Oh, thank you. This is just one poem and it's not very long. And I've been struggling with it. But I think I think it's ready for prime time. It's called C-Suite. And the protagonist in this is my hoped for future for someone that I care deeply about. C-Suite. She had set her sights on the C-Suite, as had her sorority friends. Her focus had always been Wall Street, with great fame and wealth in her lens. Once every year, the group gathered to catch up on progress and trends. They sipped their Merlot as they blathered of promotions and stock dividends. One night, exhaustion outpaced her. She'd worked every week and weekend. The stress had begun to displace her health, and her happiness it transcends. When she and her friends reunited, they were shocked at the look on her face. She was calm and serene and clear-sighted, unencumbered by her heavy briefcase. My dear friends, she then smiled and asserted, blessed peace is worth treasures much more than my precious short life long diverted from tranquility that's now been restored. Freed from a life bound by spreadsheets, the rat race she'd gladly forego. Sweet C had replaced her old C-suite with a quaint near the beach bungalow.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Is that finished, Denise?
I think so, but if you have suggestions for improvement, I'm always open.
I wouldn't improve on you, but I would like to know more. I'd like that poem to go on. I'd like to find out what caused that change in her. Is she sick? Has she had an epiphany? I think that might well be very, very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, she was just tired.
Oh, no. Make her more, go somewhere else with that one. I think that could really, really, really be interesting. If we
Thank
do
you.
that. Yeah.
So obviously it doesn't have to tell the truth.
Well, that's true.
This is fiction and poetry, and does anything you want it to as the poetess.
That's right. That's right. But there's a lot of hope there for someone that I care about. So
This is very contemporary. The issue that you're writing about is very contemporary. It's just happening everywhere now.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's great.
thank you.
Melissa, you were going to read something for us tonight?
Hello, I am. I can either do one or two poems. And I will start with one called Surrender. And the story lies within the poem itself. So I'll just go on. Surrender. On a gorgeous day in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, in her hands, she held pieces of paper and little stones. Green adventurine, a clearer of the heart space, encouraging one to find courage, strength, and grace. Surrender was the word she chose for me. I did not understand the context immediately. Busy living life fully. Stopped in my tracks 2 days later by an injury. I lunged too far and landed hard, stretched and jarred. Muscle striations, reverberation, followed by rest, ice, compression, elevation. Slowed to a snail's pace. My new mantra, the turtle wins the race. Surrender was the word she chose for me. I now understand it was a foreshadow for humility. Surrendering to a myriad of feelings, surrendering to time for healing. Thank you. And to go into my second one, the backstory is I am a white woman on the journey on the matter of race to learn more about racism and systemic racism. And I have been involved in courses with a conflict resolution strategist. And to process my thoughts and assignments, poetry is what I turn to. So this is called Complex History. Unpacking a complex history, so much untold remains a mystery. Systemic, not singular isolated incidents. Divisive systems put into place by past presidents. Men of their time, they say, you see, using free labor, chattel slavery. White ancestors may have been poor. They freely came to these shores, a better life to explore. Indentured, maybe. Those terms had an end date. Opportunity, not being property, was their fate. White people have had it hard, but never had to fear awakening to a burning cross in their yard. People polarized, people of color oppressed and ostracized. Take a moment to look back and see. Improving quality of life for others is improving quality of life for all humanity.
Talk about timely. That's very important in these times. And And very well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I agree with all that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Mhm.
No, we'll just turn the screen.
You're next.
See that?
All right, Jane, you're next. Where are you? Oh, you're right
All right.
there.
Can
Okay,
you turn that screen?
Yeah.
I think? Yep, okay.
there you go.
I'm reading from a low seat tonight. Oops, did I do my
You can
glasses?
sit
Okay.
down.
Oh, I guess we could speak.
Yeah, let's.
All right, let's switch.
She has a live audience tonight.
Whoops.
Oh, there we
There
go.
we go.
Musical chairs.
Yep, there we go. All right. Okay, tonight I'm reading, I seem to be the only one not doing poetry today recently. So I'm reading from my Boston Tales book. Tonight's story is called Wonderland. And we've just had little Tony, I don't know if some of you know the characters, but Angela and Jimmy Rourke have just had their almost three-year-old baptized late. And the last story that I read was a little bit about the clash of cultures between the North End, which is the Italians, Angela DeCenzo's side, and Charleston, which is the Irish or Jimmy Rourke side, who are the mother and father of little Tony. So we pick up after the christening. The DeCenzos were delighted with their grandson's christening at Sacred Heart and had outdone themselves with the reception afterwards. One of Sal DeCenzo's cousins ran a company catering high-end Italian weddings around Greater Boston. Uncle Lorenzo had managed to acquire a dozen already paid-for white doves when a groom-to-be in Belmont failed to show up for his wedding the day before. The pastries and cookies at the reception were spectacular, the vino abundant, but the showstopper of the christening reception was the doves crisscrossing above the white balloon arch spanning the family's table. It wasn't until one of the doves took a nosedive into Anna Toshi's beehive hairdo as she sat munching pizzelle at one of the tables that the dove's potential for tragedy became apparent. Neighbor ladies trotted the screaming woman to the ladies' room, removed the befuddled bird, including its detritus, from her teased updo, and repaired the damage as best they could. The rest of the ladies at the reception took great pleasure from the spectacle, as Anna was a well-known neighborhood gossip whose tongue had pierced them all at one time or another. One of the older women even observed to her confidants that particular dove must be the Holy Spirit. How else would it have known to zero in on the guests most deserving of a little comeuppance, she said. Sal and Maria knew their guests would be talking about this reception for a long time to come. Sal folded a $50 bill and pressed it into Lorenzo's hand, thanking him for making Tony's christening party so memorable. All sides went home satisfied that day, including the Rourkes. The baby had been given his father's and Ma Rourke's father's Christian name as his sacramental name, and the Rourkes got to take the baby back to Charlestown, where they would dote on the boy and see him daily. The short trip back over the inner harbor after the party was relaxed and pleasant. Even Da kept his comments to himself. Routine returned to the Rourke household. Jimmy and Angela continued to watch Tony grow. Soon he would be 3. Jimmy redoubled his efforts to resist temptation to hoist a few after work, though he was still troubled about the future on the job. Ange continued to work now 4 nights a week, but they ate together with Tony when they could. I'm just going to skip over some of this. One Friday night in the early summer, Jimmy came home, tossed Tony up onto his broad shoulders and said, "Daddy's going to take you to the beach for your birthday. Would you like that, Tony?" Ange stopped setting the table and looked at Jimmy with a questioning look. "How, Jimmy? Where?" "Got it all figured out," Jimmy said. "If you pack us a bag with some towels, I'll take the tea in town to the Blue Line, and we'll take it out to Revere Beach. There's plenty of food stands and stuff, so we don't even need to pack lunch. If he gets bored at the beach, we can eat. Go over to the amusement park so we can go see the roller coaster before they destroy it. Did you know they finally condemned it, Ange? Or I can even take him to some races at Wonderland Dog Park. He'd love the puppies. I don't know about the track, Jimmy. Greyhounds are nice, but there's all kinds of characters over there. Maybe keep it to the beach, some fried clams and a hot dog, or a kid ride or two at the amusement park. If you have him home by supper, it'll give me time to make him a cake and get some ice cream. Ma and Dad will be over too. I'll make a little party for him. Deal, Jimmy said. Angela smiled down at Tony and ran her fingers through his short hair. She had finally taken him to the barber. My little boy's grown up so fast, huh? One day, baby curls and diapers. Next thing you know, you're off with Daddy to the big city. Ange caught a whiff of beer on Jimmy's breath just then, and she squinted at him. What's going on with you, Jimmy? Were you at the bar before coming home? No, don't you ever lie to me. Okay, yeah, I had one. She put her face right up to his. He averted his eyes. 2. She turned and picked Tony up, hustling off to put his pajamas on him before supper. Over her shoulder, she yelled, I smell that on your breath again any time before his birthday. No trip to the beach. I don't care how much you scream. Jimmy was scrupulous about 2 things after that night, the smell of his breath and the time he came home. He was aware that Ange was watching every move. And now for the 2 weeks leading up to Tony's 3rd birthday, he was a paragon of sobriety and punctuality. Ange slowly let her guard down, and on the morning of the proposed beach trip, she surprised them with a duffel bag, packed with towels, pull-ups, suntan lotion, flip-flops, toddler water shoes, t-shirts, and beach hats. Tony was ecstatic when she handed him one last thing, a bright yellow Tonka dump truck. Happy birthday, Tony. You and Daddy are going to have a guy's day at the beach. Tony clutched the Tonka truck. Dig dirt, he exclaimed, the anticipation of playing with his first big boy truck lighting up his entire face. That's right. Tonight we'll have cake and ice cream with Nana and Papa and more presents. She thought, I'll remember how happy he looks right this moment, as long as I live. This was the best present we could have given him. She smiled at her husband over their boy's head. Thank you for thinking of this, Jimmy. She kissed them both and sent them down the stairs, then ran to the open living room window to call out, don't let go of his hand, Jimmy. He acknowledged her instruction with a wave of his hand, and they turned the corner towards the tea station. Revere Beach, here we come, said Jimmy. Dig dirt and sand, swim, giggled Tony. They descended the hill together. Jimmy squeezed his son's warm, pudgy hand and felt as if it was his own birthday. So full of delight and wonder was his world in that moment. As if his eyes were suddenly a 3-year-old's eyes. He looked down at Tony and said, I love you, Tony. Happy birthday to me, the child replied. Beach, Daddy. Yep, that's right. I'm your beach daddy. I think I'll stop there. It seems like that's enough time, but we're obviously leading up to some major drama. Okay. Okay, want to switch seats?
Better live. Huh? Much better live. Here's. You're such a great reader.
Oh, God.
Hearing you read.
Yes, I agree. And I love your characters. You certainly know that neck of the woods.
I do.
I love Angie and Jimmy both. You've characterized them so well. Goodness gracious.
Well, Jimmy is going to be very true to character as this story goes on. So we'll read more next week. Or next month.
Or next week,
Next
whenever.
month.
Whenever. Oh, I think I messed your screen up. Oh, I didn't. Okay.
It has a nice neck.
Oh, okay. Oh, you just okay. Up and down. Jonathan, are you reading? Estelle, are you reading? You sure?
I can.
Yay.
I think you should.
This will be different from anything people have read so far. I'm doing a program with 3 of the Lost Boys of Sudan on Thursday next week in Decatur at the Georgia Center for the Book. And each one of them has written a book. And I wrote one with Majak in 2014. All of them shared the same experience of being young men who had to flee their country. And Majak was 7. I'm not sure what age the others were, but he was pretty young. And it was a very difficult walk. Now they all have accomplished amazing things. Majak has continued to be a plumber's assistant, and he's built, with our help, our nonprofit, 6 wells for 6 different villages. And one guy has become a PhD in public health, works for CDC, mostly remotely, but his countries are not Sudan, but Kenya and one of the other countries nearby. I'm sorry, blanking on the name, but anyway, Uganda. Then the other one is an Anglican bishop, and he started as a, lay minister in the camps back in when they were first in camps. So they all have accomplished great things, and the bishop is in Africa most of the time. He's in South Sudan, and he comes here for fundraising once a year, so he's going to be there. So with the book that I did with Majak, I was following a biography of Shaq O'Neill I'd seen, where there was a voice of a person explaining the background, and then the voice of the writer himself, of the main writer. So this is Majak speaking. In every culture, there is probably a tradition of observing that life has many sorrows, but it has joys as well. The book of Ecclesiastes relates that there was a time for having plenty and a time for losing all one has, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time to mourn and a time to dance. My story here will be filled with instances that show the desperate situation we were in, yet there was sometimes a small blessing among the pain. One of these blessings was my great uncle, a young man himself of 17 or 20, who accompanied us on the first journey to Ethiopia and showed us ways to stay safe. Our cousin Cal was a grace. Another was the care my family took to educate me, a small Dinka boy, on ways to do for myself. Many times I recalled my mother's and grandmother's words as I looked for water, searched for food, tried to keep hope. They made sure I would be ready for whatever happened to me. They could never have foreseen this story of incredible suffering. Another blessing is that early on, my uncle, Cal Reich, and I encountered good Dinka companions, Matak and Lot, and we all stayed together through the long journey to Ethiopia. We spoke mostly the same dialect, but we had some words that were different, so we came up with our own words or agreed upon a word. We had different names for the same thing. Language is a matter of life and death. If you traveled with people who spoke a different language, they would plot against you and even kill you. There was enough death around, and we often came near death ourselves. Sometimes we would see a person lying beside the path. We were not sure if he was alive or dead. He is only sleeping, Matak, who was older than I, said. In fact, people did lie down to rest. Sometimes they pulled off from a group and said they were going to rest, but often they never got up. My uncle, Cal, Matak, and I, and Lot, who at 6 years old was even younger than I, always made sure we pulled each other up to continue walking. If we had not done this, any of us could have died. In order to hide from the tanks and Hummers and the Sudanese soldiers, and also to keep from running into people who might do us harm, we walked off the main road where tanks were forced to travel. And we walked at night and early morning. This also kept us out of the hottest part of the day, which would be deadly to us. We never had enough food or water. We walked until midnight the night before and then slept for a couple of hours, rose and ate some kind of food, maybe sorghum grains or corn we'd been able to find, then left at 4 a.m. to walk for 6 more hours. During the middle of the day, we rested under a tree well off the path where others would not find us. Often I found we were under a tree that was like a tree from my own village. Other times I noticed that there were mountains in the distance. which I had not seen from my own village. The land always had interesting things to see. I'd rise before dawn as usual with the others, have some boiled grain over fire, and clean my teeth with ashes from the fire. We Dinka use ashes for toothpaste and many other purposes, often to decorate our skin for ceremonies. Once or twice, I remember I'd be sleepily making my way down the path. All of us would be quiet, still a little asleep, and the sunrise would start filling the land to the east with light. That was a good feeling because it told us we were going in the right direction. Ethiopia was east, where the sun rose. And there was such light over tall fields of drying grasses that my breath hardly came. With the heat of the day yet to come, I could enjoy the beauty of my country. It would be enough to help me move my legs and walk fast, to feel that slightly cool air and see the slanted golden light of sunrise over the fields and the paths I would need to walk for the next several hours. But most of the time, there was no time to think of beauty. There was only desperation. Thank you.
Now, this is a book that Malek wrote.
He and I wrote it together.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
Your book.
Most of the writing is mine, but
Okay.
they are from his stories.
Okay.
A pastoral associate at my church brought us together because he had written 100 pages.
Wow.
And she wanted him to have help getting it published. And I was interested in a publication. I was working on Rising Fawn. I was not interested in stopping that, but the idea of going to a traditional publisher, this would have a traditional publisher interest, was great to me. So I stopped Rising Fawn and wrote with him. His 100 pages were largely repetitive, and they didn't have good direction about where it was going, and the references were definitely opaque, what he was talking about. There weren't even maps in those days that you could go on. You couldn't go on Google Earth and find anything. There weren't references to Southern Sudan until George Clooney took up their cause. It was hardly an item online. You really couldn't find out much. So I did about 2 years of listening to him, taping him, and then researching. And then once we got a contract, another couple of years, fact checking that and making sure we had all the background that we wanted. So it was a long work. It took 4 years total. And then we created a nonprofit after that. So I was involved with it actively for about 10 years.
Wow.
We'll be reading from it. The others will be reading from theirs. And a lot of people in Atlanta have really followed their story. We had some really good coverage during the really difficult moments of their existence. When they came on 9/11, my jock's roommate was attacked on the way home. Black young toughs saying, "Did you set the towers on fire? Did you fly the planes?" And it's ironic because these guys were fleeing the same extremism, the same Muslim extremism that caused the war against them. So they were targets of Muslim extremism as well, because they were either traditional religion or they were Christian, and they were Black, and they were different from the main control people in Sudan, which were the Muslim Arabs.
It's an inspiring story, I will say that. I mean, I met you around that time when you came out with that book. I went to that program, and it's hard to, I mean, I don't know how old he was by the time you guys were doing the program, but I was like, clearly he had been a very small boy when his world became so disastrous. And it's just, very cool to see somebody transcend all of that the way he has. And I think that you have two others to add their own dimension to the story. I wish I was going to be in Atlanta, but I have friends in Atlanta, and I've sent them your way. I hope they're able to go, because I know they would be into your stories.
Thank you. I think it'll be really interesting. It'll be a good reunion, and I'm looking forward to it. Jonathan and who is the board member of Jonathan who had us speak at Presbyterian Church who Hilton Head.
That was our board
Jane Upshaw.
Yeah.
She was very kind to have us enrolled there, and there was interest on the part of the church because the minister had some connection.
That's right. I remember that.
It's a story that doesn't get a lot of publicity, but 60 Minutes had the minister who'll be on, the priest. He was on 60 Minutes 3 different times. So they've been on 60 Minutes. They've followed the story, and they'd still follow Sudan, so you can get some news of them there. But most of the time, you have to Google South Sudan news to find out what's going on, because the national media don't cover it as much. They're having both floods and droughts right now. They're having food shortages, extreme food shortages, because most of their grains came from Ukraine. So even the World Food Program has said they're not going to try and supply them because they don't have enough money to buy, on the market, and or their donations are low. So it's one of those things that I think everybody needs to study one African country and know it well, so you kind of have an idea of what goes on and how diverse countries are. They're not all one country, as some people think. But thank you for the opportunity to read. I appreciate it. And thanks for your comments, Elizabeth. So glad you were there that night.
Thank you, Estelle. We really appreciate your efforts. My gosh. Marvelous.
Glad you decided to read, Estelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's Lois Jonathan's reading. He's not reading. He never reads. I know he's got something.
I know. I think he's working on something.
We keep trying to get him to read.
I think you read that one time.
That one time.
Like over a year ago.
He's staying muted, I see.
Oh, is he? Okay, fine.
This in his time, another time.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to introduce our featured writer. I'm gonna. Sorry. Catherine, you ready?
I am.
Okay. Freelance travel writer Katherine Tandy Brown currently teaches memoir, travel writing, writing practice, and Write into Your Heart in the University of South Carolina Beaufort's OLLI Continuing Ed program. A writing coach, she has taught at Tech College of the Lowcountry, Palm Key, and Thera Vista retreat centers, and in her downtown Beaufort, South Carolina cottage. In 2007, Katherine fled icy Kentucky winters for sunny Beaufort, where she co-authors a twice-monthly column in Lowcountry Weekly called Holy Holistics, a look at life from alternative viewpoints. She also leads a local writers critique group, Sea Island Spirit Writers. Several chapters in her memoir-in-progress, Anne, Queen of the Wingchair, and in her novel-in-progress, Karma, an Equine Racetrack Thriller, have been published as standalone short stories in Catfish Stew, Kentucky Monthly, and in volumes of Short Story America. Congratulations, Katherine, and everyone help me welcome Katherine Tandy Brown.
Yay!
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here. Let me get my...
What are you going to be reading for us tonight?
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to read an excerpt from the memoir that you mentioned. I'm writing this memoir about my mother, titled Anne, Queen of the Wingchair, which is an unusual title. And it came from this. Every afternoon for years, my mom would entertain friends in her Kentucky den while seated in a green and white striped wing chair. Tongue-in-cheek, my stepfather called her Queen Anne and the chair her throne. So while I'm reading this, I may refer to her as the Queen, so you'll know who that is. This is one chapter in the memoir, and this one is 5-Year Diary. Okay, here we go. This is Anne Queen. Wise in the ways of the world, my mother was especially wise in the ways of men. A pretty flirt from birth, she'd focus her baby browns directly into a man's eyes, spread a sun-raising smile across her face, and somehow seemingly be able to read which feminine wiles to use to twist him around her slender finger. Every sort and condition of male fell prey to her remarkable charms, from yardmen and door-to-door salesmen, to Episcopal rectors and artists, to intellectuals and bank presidents. Not one was safe. Shortly after her death, I was cleaning out a lovely French provincial bedroom chest. An inveterate shopper, Mom had filled the first drawer with every ilk of just-in-case gifts. A crystal prism on a stand, a gyroscope, 3 Beatrix Potter books tiny enough for children's hands, a camel-hued cashmere winter scarf with thick fringe, 2 pairs of bright yellow loose-knit stretch gloves, a compact French dictionary, a magic 8 fortune-telling ball, and, wrapped in thin white tissue paper studded with silver stars, a blue and white Chinese porcelain box containing 5 jingle shells. To Queen Anne, every beach was hallowed ground, and every shell pure treasure. Nestled within another drawer were at least a dozen soft nightgowns and cozy winter flannels, summer-weight cottons and sheer nylons, some in pretty pastels, some in gay flowery patterns. Tucked beneath were purple, yellow, and hot pink flannel bed socks. I smiled involuntarily, but it was the top drawer that held the prize. Over the years, I'd looked through that drawer every time a new caregiver would require the Where's Everything tour and knew its contents. Because the dresser was nearly 6 feet tall, I had to reach up to pull out its top cache that day. Gingerly, I lifted out the drawer, placing it on a towel covering Queen Anne's favorite bedspread, a veritable miasma of bold, primary-colored impressionist flowers on a clean white background. The room's window curtains matched, as did a bolster, dust ruffle, and the canopy bed's drapes. Mom and her colors. Within the drawer, on top of a stack of old theater programs and art exhibit brochures, lay a small red volume. Gold letters on its cover read, 5-Year Diary. I wondered whose it could be. As far as I knew, the Queen had never kept a diary, although every few Januaries she'd resolved to write just a little bit on a journal every day, or write my memoirs for my girls. But my sister Lindsay and I already had discovered 5 or 6 separate lined, ledger-type books, some with as much as 10 to 15 pages filled with fascinating details of her early years, well-penned thoughts about being a mother, and joyous ruminations about the love she felt for her second husband, my stepfather Edmund. But the rest of each journal's pages remained snowy white. A diarist she was not. Curious, I picked up and opened the diary to the first page, where, penned in what must have been the teen version of Mom's neat regular handwriting, I read, 5-Year Diary, property of Anne Tandy Brown, 1637 South Main Street, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. The years fell away, for I had spent the first 9 years of my life in that house, the red brick cottage that my grandfather Will Kimmons had built in 1919 for his wife, Myrtie Hibernia, my grandmother, and daughter Anne Tandy, who grew up to be my mother, the Queen. Beneath the address she'd added, February 28, 1929. The diary must have been a birthday gift her junior year, at Hopkinsville High School. With wonder, I turned the page. Carefully written on the back of the title sheet was a list of around 20 men's surnames, and beside each a number of slashes to indicate a tally of some sort. Moving from top to bottom, I began to read Guy, George, Ben, Preston, Edmund. Edmund, I thought, Edmund Albritton had been Mom's childhood and high school sweetheart until her freshman year at Hollins College in Virginia. That year, the princess in training had come home to Kentucky for Christmas, and Edmund had invited her to attend the annual holiday dance at the Hopkinsville Golf and Country Club. As his steady girl, she'd of course accepted. But her college roommate Lily had phoned from Roanoke a few days before the dance, urging her to get back to Hollins pronto, so Anne could double date with her to a big dance at the Virginia Military Institute, where that talented, luscious youngster, Frank Sinatra, would be singing with the Glenn Miller Orchestra. Ever one for the splashy event, Princess Anne broke the date with Edmund, hopped the next train to Virginia, and shook a lovely leg at VMI. A friend of the now dateless Edmund fixed him up for the dance with an attractive girl from Madisonville. 2 years later, they were married, and he and Mom didn't hook up hooked back up for nearly 35 years. Obviously, Anne had kept count of her dates for the years the diary encompassed, from her junior year in high school, 1929, through her senior year in college, 1934. 19 lucky swains had made the 1931 list, 22 in 1932, and 17 in 33. Jack topped the 31 pack with 37 slashes, which I had to assume indicated dates. Edmund rallied in 33 with 17. What a heartbreaker the Queen must have been. Flipping past the juicy innards with each year's 4-line entries, penned in various inks, was a section for notes, followed by an address segment with alphabetized tabs. Scanning, I saw names and dates, lots of them. Golf dates, tennis dates, movie dates, and lunch, cocktail, and supper dates. The bulk of pages recounted dances, listing girl chums also attending, and guys she'd chosen as no-break partners. The Queen's diary filled in many fascinating blanks about her life, but not all of them. From her youth, Mom had been blessed with an innate sense of rhythm and an appreciative ear for a catchy melody, and always could cut a fine rug indeed. Diary comments confirmed its importance during her teens. Went to my first public dance, the Cotillion Club Ball Christmas night. 17-year-old Anne Tandy wrote in 1930. Ralph Bennett's orchestra went with Jack Moore. The next year brought formal Cotillion Club dance at Bowling Green, Kentucky. And in 1932, the popular co-ed attended a fancy-dress ball at Washington and Lee University. A slew of entries filled reams of pages in between. A note on the frontispiece of the Royal Journal read, "See May 1st, 1931, and May 12th, 1931. As I had not yet begun delving page by page into Mom's early social smorgasbord, I thumbed eagerly to May. There, on May Day of 1931, 18-year-old Anne Tandy Kemmons reported, Junior-Senior Banquet at Hopkinsville High School, date with Edmund Albritton. That explained the initial reference. But then I noticed the heading of the following page was June 7th. Wait a minute, I thought. Where's May? And for that matter, what about the first week of June? Except for a tiny snippet of yellowed paper with a few letters of now lost sentences, the diary kept secret 5 weeks during 5 years of her life. The pages had been carefully removed. Obviously, the Queen had no idea of leaving everything to the scrutiny of posterity. She simply titillated and bade ta-ta, leaving questions to remain unanswered forever. What I'd give, I thought, to channel Mom back for a conversation over lunch. We'd have so much to catch up on. She'd insist that I tell her everything about my life now, forays into the world's exotic nooks and crannies as a freelance journalist, and all about a cozy cottage I had built a block from the water in the South Carolina Lowcountry. I'd ask her about the afterlife. She would, of course, look wonderful as always, so wherever she'd landed was agreeing with her. How were her chums, Tucky and Jane? Did Edmund still look like a young Frank Sinatra? What about Daddy? Was it awkward hanging out with both husbands? She'd be chattering away, telling all, just like in those glory days on the Wingchair throne. And when she was completely wrapped up in the telling, her eyes dancing, her smooth olive hands describing her words, just like an excited Italian, I'd slide in the question. Mom, I'd begin, I was just wondering, what happened to the merry month of May and the first week of June in your diary? But knowing Her Highness, she'd probably come full stop. And without missing a beat, she'd just flash those laughing eyes at me, spread a wild, enigmatic grin across her tanned cheeks, and tantalize with a, well, wouldn't you just like to know? The Queen, it would seem, did indeed take it with her. That's the end.
Oh,
I
wait.
want to read her.
Thank you. Oh, she was a pistol. She was definitely a pistol.
I feel like you know her.
Yeah. Oh,
And it's funny that during this period that I've been writing about her, I mean, I didn't start writing about her till after she passed away. I'm getting to know her a lot better. I mean, who knew that would happen? But as I understand, that can happen when writing memoir, and it certainly has for me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for your attention. I appreciate it.
Well, and we all have secrets, and it's fascinating to think about it from the perspective of our parents.
Oh, it is. It is. My sister and I have talked about it a lot and just wondered out loud. But, you know, I have a theory. My sister has a theory, and they're probably both wrong. So she did take that one with her for sure.
But even the details that you give, for example, if that early on, the details of all of the things that she keeps as emergency gifts, even that list is revelatory, isn't it? I mean, that's not necessarily what I would choose to have, you know, but it's just interesting what she saw as things that, you know, in the future would be handy.
It was, and it was really funny because as she aged, she always had this drawer just filled with gifts. Some were wrapped, some she would wrap when the time came. But it was a hoot because she would forget who she sent what to. And sometimes I'd get the same thing 3 years in a row. And my sister would too. And of course, we did not mention that. Of course not.
You can never have enough pashminas, right?
Correct. Correct. Very true. Very true.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. This was fun.
That was amazing.
Thanks.
I loved your detail, even to the jingle shells in the porcelain container. I didn't know what jingle shells were until I started trying to make some jewelry with my granddaughters. It was one way to get them to the beach.
Good.
They love
Well,
swimming in a pool now, you know, so we go there because we're going to make jewelry from jingle shells.
From the pool?
No, not the pool. Has
The
nothing
beach.
to do with it. Only at the beach can you do this.
It's true. And actually, the beach here has them. You know, there are not that many shells here, but you can always find jingle shells.
Yeah.
Well, it was truly fascinating, and it was fascinating because I keep a box with gifts, emergency gifts, and I didn't know other people did that. So even that was revelatory to me. So
Isn't
that
that
was
funny?
cool. Yeah.
And I keep a bag. You know, I learned from my mother. I keep a great big shopping bag with gifts, just in case.
Just in case.
Great.
And you can always look smart. It's like, oh, yes, I knew your birthday was today. Here.
The detail of the debutante's life is mind-boggling. You know, she's listed the no breaks. You know, the people on her dance card for whom there would be no breaks.
What does that mean?
So okay, this is funny because
Debutante.
yeah, there are 2 paragraphs after that I eliminated because I needed a little bit less time or I needed a little, but a no breaks, and I don't know that anybody does it anymore, maybe cotillions and debutantes, if they still even have that. But there were little cards like, it was a heavy stock, usually a white or an ecru colored. And there'd be numbers 1 to 6, and with a line after each one. And the girl who had the card, the girls would wear them. They usually had a pink ribbon, and the girls would wear them on their wrist after they were filled out. And they would choose which boys they wanted to dance with, 1 through 6. And those were dances that nobody could break in on them. You know, they were staying with the same partner. So you wanted to get the guy that you thought was really cool, even if it wasn't your date, on number 6. See, I learned from my mother. I learned all that from my mother.
So number 6 only was the no break, or
yeah, no, all 6 were no breaks, but number 6 was the last one, and so you wanted to have the no break with a guy you thought was pretty cool.
That was the most important of the no breaks. Okay.
Yes. And sometimes a girl's dates could be kind of flabbergasted that they were not number 6. But
you got to keep them guessing, right?
Absolutely.
And yes, they do still have cotillions, at least in Georgia.
Do
Oh,
they
yeah?
really?
I have
Wow.
some friends that just a couple of years ago now, he has passed away, but his wife is still there. But they had gone to a cotillion that their granddaughter, great granddaughter, had participated in Savannah. So
Mhm.
yeah, it happens.
Wow. Well, and that doesn't surprise me a whole lot because I would think probably the South, the big cities of the South, probably Atlanta still does, Savannah, Charleston, they probably still do because it's just so traditional.
All amazing families of generally white families of wealth.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
it wasn't the world I grew up in. Although I really enjoyed all your references to my old stomping grounds in Virginia.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
I've never been to that area, and I had scheduled a trip. I talked to Hollins, and had scheduled I wanted to come and see Hollins because I never had, and my mother just loved it there.
Yeah, it was pretty. It's a pretty school.
Yeah, it's lovely. That's
Is
where
That's where
that's
Brooke went. Brooke
that's
and
right.
Emily,
That's right.
and Emily Davis Fletcher.
Right. And Emily's there now. Emily
Yep.
Davis Fletcher is there now.
Really?
Yep.
Mhm. She's getting her master's.
Her
That's
MFA.
a fun.
Yeah, her MFA there right now.
I have a relative that went there, but because she's into horses,
Yes,
very, very big for that zone.
Mhm. They are. They
Yeah,
are.
try to make a stop in Lexington and maybe try to tour VMI. That's where my husband went to school. So I had 4 years worth of hops and formal dances while we were dating. So.
Oh,
Wow. Oh, that's so cool. VMI. My mother used to talk about it a lot. When she talked about her past, she used to talk about it a whole lot. Yeah, I had an appointment all set up at Hollins in March, the middle of March 2020, if
oh,
that rings a bell. So that got canceled, and I haven't rescheduled it.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
I want to see it.
I don't know if Jonathan is still there. I know he's still muted, but it seems to me that we need to go to work to get more men willing to read at open mic again. So maybe you can bully Jonathan into it. We'll have to find some other folks to bring.
We usually
Yeah.
do Niles, or we haven't had him in a while.
I
but
keep
Barry,
encouraging
Niles.
Niles to come.
Barry and Brad.
And Barry and Brett. I think it's the summer. I think people are just so
Uh-huh.
busy with other stuff. Mac is often
Barry's thinking up evil questions for me.
Yeah.
Probably.
Barry.
Oh,
I
yeah.
shouldn't think he'd need to take an evening off to do that.
He's gonna be pretty good at that.
You
It
should
will be-
have stored up as many years as we've been friends at this point.
Elizabeth, is that going to be recorded at all?
I have no idea.
Don't know. Okay.
Hopefully, no.
I wish you luck. I cannot make it tomorrow night, but I really wish you luck. That's going to be wonderful.
Oh, I'm hoping to set up some other events in the area, but
Good. Let me know.
Good.
Great.
Good.
yeah.
great.
I had the odd luck of the book coming out a little like totally on time after they give you a warning. Don't schedule anything for at least a month after that date. And I could have done a lot of things, but
Oh, shoot.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure you'll have lots and lots of bookstores interested. Have you gone down to Barnes & Noble and also Ex Libris in Savannah? Have you set up anything in those locations?
I'm working on a couple of places in Savannah, yes.
Yeah, good.
But I have a grandchild pending,
Oh,
and I don't know
Ooh.
when she's going to show up. So I have to kind of be careful about committing to, cement it in times to do things. Yeah.
First things first.
Where's she going to be born?
Hmm?
You know, what area of the country? What area of the country?
This is the daughter that's still in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
How many children do you have?
3,
Okay. And how many grandchildren?
1.
Oh, so this is going to be the second one.
My children are not productive in this area. We have lots of grand dogs. But
Gotcha. I got
the humankind, then they're like, that's too much work.
My
Only
sister-in-law,
four-legged.
that knew Pat Conroy pretty well, she came the same year he did to Beaufort High, and she was the daughter of a Marine officer. And she, in her marriage to my brother, Pat, they had 3 beautiful children, and the delay was just going on. And I think Pat and Sue, my brother and sister-in-law, were living in Langley, Virginia.
Wow.
And the kids were getting married and nothing was happening. And she said, if you don't have kids, I'm going to foster, I'm going to adopt. And she got clothing and got it all set up. And pretty soon somebody was pregnant. It was just amazing. She was, that was a different approach than my other sister-in-law who, just when they come, they'll come, It was 7 years, but they did
a word.
Now they came out and grew large numbers. So
I don't say a word. They need to do what they want to do with their lives.
Good for you.
Thank you, everyone, for your readings, and thank you, especially Catherine. That was marvelous, and I'm really, I can hardly wait for it to come out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Me too.
I
Oh,
didn't read part of it before, and I'm just as enthralled as I was now as I was then. So thank you very much. And I'm gonna bail. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Denise.
Thanks to Brooke for
Take
setting
care.
up. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We're still live.